Insurgent, rated PG-13, experience in an IMAX 3D March 20th.
Ain't nothing real coming out of this garbage here. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. It's one of those weekends where, yeah, a lot of the movies coming out are not very good on this weekend of March 20th, 2015. Let's put it this way. The best option in theater around this time is either Cinderella. It's either, what's another one that just came out recently? Focus, another one. I'm sure Kingsman is still playing in some theaters. In fact, it is playing in about 2,000 theaters. So many better options this weekend than the films we have to look at here. Case in point with our first movie, and that is the Divergent series, Insurgent, which is, of course, the sequel to the previous year's Divergent, because Lionsgate's trying to create another Hunger Games, Twilight, Harry Potter franchise, and yeah, it's not really all that. I thought I heard something. The plot of Insurgent takes place 5 days after Divergent and continues to follow dauntless soldier Triss Pryor, played by Shailene Woodley. Triss and four, her dauntless instructor, are on the run from evading a coup from Urdite faction leader Janine, played by Kate Winslet, and the rest of her faction. The faction system is post-apocalyptic Chicago and is crumbling for everything, and everyone is desperate for power and answers. And meanwhile, we're all desperate for a good movie from this series, which these movies really are not. I mean, they're nowhere near as bad as the worst of the Twilight movies, but they're nowhere near as good as the Hunger Games or Harry Potter movies. They're trying to create, like I said, another franchise like the Hunger Games and Harry Potter to become a success, and it's just not there with this movie. This thing is really, really lazy on so many levels. Like, the message of the movie doesn't even make a whole lot of sense in this one here. Yeah, it looks nice. The action sequences can be fun. Sometimes the performances by the cast is good. But again, what do we always say? Visuals don't make the movie. We need a good story to tell, and there's just nothing in here. And you have good writers involved here. Brian Duffield, who did Love and Monsters later on. Kiva Goldsman, who's won an Academy Award. Mark Baumbach, who's written some good stuff. He's written a lot of fun stuff in general. You know, he wrote Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, Live Free or Die Hard, The Wolverine, Logan. I mean, this is a guy that writes a lot of good stuff. So, three really good writers can't make anything out of this movie. And it's just boring, man. There's nothing about this movie that is worth it in the end. Like, you're sitting there for nearly 2.5 hours just watching this whole thing going on. It's just like, what am I getting from this, really? Like, what am I supposed to take from this whole thing? And it's just clear that they were trying to make a series so they can have another Twilight success, and it just fails miserably on so many levels. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these movies, and yeah, these movies, nothing's really going to convince me otherwise, because the last one's not that great either. And that was one that was supposed to be the two-part conclusion of this epic storyline that people were demanding for. No, they weren't. No, they were not. So, not much more to say about that one, and let's let the bullshit train continue with our next movie, Sean Penn, starring in The Gunman. Tell me if this movie looks anything familiar from other movies of the past.
What after they do you in the end?
The Gunman, rated R, in theaters March 20th.
And this is made by the guy who directed the Good Taken movie, and yeah, this looks so familiar. Stop me if you've heard this, because this is, what am I saying? It's a groundbreaking, revolutionary idea where Sean Penn stars as a mercenary who assassins the mining minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2006 on orders from multinational mining companies. 8 years later, Terrier has retired from mercenary work. He and the people close to him become the targets of hit squads sent by a powerful multinational security firm, and he must fight to stay alive. The cast also includes Javier Bardem, Idris Elba, Mark Rylance, Ray Winstone. Yeah, it's every single action revenge film that you could think of. I mean, it's literally another Commando. It's literally another 86 billion Liam Neeson movie. This is a movie that was co-written by Sean Penn, who obviously did not do a very good job of that. Neither does Pete Travis, who gave us Vantage Point, which was a good action movie. But yeah, this thing is a mess, man. I mean, it's a movie that is so lazy and wastes so much good talent in this movie. I mean, Mark Rylance is going to win an Oscar later in the year for a much better movie than this pile of garbage here. But here, it's like he's not even trying. Like, nobody really feels like they're trying in this film whatsoever. It's a film that is just another ripoff of Taken, where let's take this over 50-year-old actor. Sean Penn, I think, was in his 60s when this was coming out. Yeah, 60... No, No, he was 55, so it's still, he's over 50. It's just like, they're seeing what there is, and this director worked with Liam Neeson very well, but there's a difference between Liam Neeson and Sean Penn. Sean Penn is not a guy you go to do these type of action movies in general. Liam Neeson made that the norm with Taken, but that was more of a lightning in a bottle moment, even with the movies that he did afterwards that were actually not that bad, like, Nonstop and Walk Among the Tombstones. Like, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime thing. You don't get to do this all the time. And yeah, this proved that this is probably one that you shouldn't do all the time here. It just doesn't work as a whole, and it's just not a good film whatsoever. It's wasting a lot of really good talent on a script that has been done to death before so many times. Nothing new is happening with this film that you haven't seen done before in 1,000,000,006 other movies, and it just, I don't know what else to tell you, man. It just doesn't work. It's not fun. It's not engaging whatsoever. The action sequences are poorly shot. They're trying hard to make the next Taking, and it's just a bad Taken knockoff. It just doesn't work. It just does not work as a film. It's a knockoff of a lot of action movies, but I said Taken because it's the director of that first Taken movie, but yeah, what else? So I don't have anything else for you on this one here. This one's pretty lame, and a lot of these movies this week are very lame. Case in point with our next movie, Do You Believe, from the creators of God's Not Dead.
Live to his.
Mira Sorvino, Sean Astin, Alexa Vega, Delroy Lindo. I mean, he's a big star now with him in Sinners recently, but Ted McGinley, Sybil Shepherd, Lee Majors, Brian Bosworth. Man, this movie would have been very popular in 1995, not 2015. I mean, good Lord. And here's something I didn't notice until now. The director of this movie is John Gunn, who, of course, you now know for stuff like The Unbreakable Boy, Ordinary Angels, these Christian movies. But here's the movie I completely forgot he did. My Date with Drew. The movie where, it was all about a guy is literally stalking Drew Barrymore for a date, but we're going to put it in a documentary film so it looks heartfelt and charming, and it certainly is not. And boy, what a downfall to go from somebody who was stalking Drew Barrymore to being stuck in Christian movie hell. But in this movie, when a pastor named Matthew, played by Ted McGinley, who back in the 80s was considered to be the TV show killer, because anytime he would appear on a TV show as part of the cast, the show would be quickly canceled afterwards. But when he's shaken to the core by the visible belief of a street corner preacher played by Delroy Lindo, he and others come together to start the question of what their religious beliefs really mean. In other words, this is a movie that's literally going to spend the next 2 hours talking to you about how God is amazing, and if you need to do a movie about this in general, then you clearly are trying to push some other agenda besides talking about how God is great and all that. We all know God is great. Yeah, we know he works in mysterious ways, and it's just one of those things where it's just like, we don't need a 2-hour movie telling us that in general. And with a cast that includes people that were not relevant at the time, at that point, like, what else do I really need to say about this movie in general? This is a movie that's specifically made for the same audience that God's Not Dead was. It was made by the same creators of that movie, the same company, Pureflix. So, yeah, it's going to appeal to them more than it would be for a normal person like me who likes to broaden his reach with other movies besides just watching the same old Christian movie garbage. Because most of them are pretty garbage in particular. We've had a couple of ones where they actually weren't that bad, like, trying to remember which one. I think Heaven is For Real is one I said that was actually not that bad. But yeah, this is another one of those movies where it's just like, this one's not made for me. It's made for a specific audience, so it's not going to appeal to me personally. But again, it just feels like a movie that this would have been a hit 20 years ago, but not today. This feels like a film that's a last-ditch effort for everybody on board with this film, with the exception of Delroy Lindo, of course, because he's gone on to become an Oscar-nominated actor and could be an Oscar-winning actor by the time the month is over. As of the time of recording this, March 3rd, with the Oscars coming up in a couple weeks, so who knows. But yeah, other than that, though, yeah, do you believe? I believe in other things besides this movie, that's for certain. So let's go ahead and move on to yet another star-filled movie that should be much better. It probably would have been better 20 years ago. Al Pacino starring as Danny Collins.
You know what I liked about you? You never give up.
Some dinners are worth fighting for.
Danny Collins, now playing everywhere. Rated R.
So the first thing you're probably wondering is, why are there songs by John Lennon? Why is that being the main marketing part of this? Well, this was actually inspired by the story of a guy named Steve Tilston, who learned of the existence of a letter that John Lennon had written to him 34 years ago after the letter was written. 34 years after the letter was written. said 34 years ago, but that's what the story is about. It's inspired by that story, as Al Pacino stars as an aging 1970s rocker, Danny Collins, who can't give up his hard-living ways. But when his manager, Christopher Plummer, uncovers a 40-year-old undelivered letter written to him by John Lennon, he decides to change course and embark on a heartfelt journey to rediscover his family, find true love, and begin a second act. And out of all the movies we've covered this week, this is probably the best one of the movies that we have. But even then, it's not that great. I mean, it does at least use its talent much better than some of the other movies we've looked at here. It doesn't know if this is produced by the director of I Am Sam, one of the most infamous Oscar bait movies ever, with Sean Penn acting retarded to try to win an Oscar, and that didn't work out. But you have a cast that includes Oscar winners like Al Pacino, Oscar nominees like Annette Bening, Jennifer Garner, Bobby Cannavale, Christopher Plummer, Nick Offerman, Josh Peck, Melissa Benoist pre-Supergirl. Actually, did Supergirl come on? No, it was coming on afterwards. It wasn't on when this was coming on, when this came out. But it's directed by Dan Fogelman, and he directed a movie I did like. He wrote Crazy Stupid Love, but he also directed Las Vegas, which I thought was. Actually, no, he wrote that one. This was actually his first film he ever directed, and of course, he would go on to create This Is Us and more recently Paradise. So, I think because you have a really good writer and director in this guy, I think that's why the movie works a little bit better than I thought it would, but it's still not a great movie overall. I mean, it's a film that has a good idea to it, and it has good performances by Pacino and this cast in general, but you really do come out of it just going like, yeah, this is fine and all that, but it's not one I'd ever want to watch again in general. But I'll give it this. Al Pacino can sing in this, and he does at least a pretty good job of singing at his ripe old age, so there is that, so I guess I really can't say too much more about that, but anyway, that is Danny Collins for you. Man, if you thought this weekend was rough, wait until we get to next week. March is not coming out the strongest overall. I mean, it started off, to be honest, March in general was not a very good month this month. I think the best movie we had was Cinderella, but next week on Time About the Movies, we'll take a look at some other big new releases, including DreamWorks Animation's latest film, and what I think is probably their worst film overall since Shark Tale, Home. We also have Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart starring in a comedy that you think would work, but unfortunately, it's Will Ferrell once again trying to remake Trading Places without really remaking Trading Places. And at least admitting that he's not remaking Trading Places. This is Get Hard. We'll also take a look at While We're Young, which might be the best overall film I remember from this weekend, and the infamous flop with Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence. People forget about this movie, including myself. I completely forgot they were in Serena, which I thought was a movie that sounded familiar, but I was thinking maybe of the other flop, which also had kind of a similar name, Serenity, but that's not until the end of the decade. But we will get to that, and that'll be the 4 films we'll take a look at to wrap March off here. A very, very sloppy month of films, no doubt about it, but we'll touch on that tomorrow. But until then, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.